Well, brethren, it's my privilege to be with you this morning to introduce you a little bit more concerning the work in Spain, and also, Reverend Hugues is going to talk after me concerning particularly Poe, and I'm going to give you some insights concerning the congregation in Ruiz, and also the extension in Valencia, and also the congregation in Braga, Portugal. Of course, you are already aware of the congregations you have visited, even some of you, but now is an opportunity to give a condensed information in 20-25 minutes that I have in front of me. So without delay, I would like then to start saying something, first of all, concerning our history, particularly in the congregation of Ruiz, Barcelona, and after that concerning our present day. And finally, the perspective, the prospects for the future. And starting with history. Now in October is going to be the 10th anniversary, it could be said, of the congregation of Ruiz. In October 2013, a group of evangelical believers visited us when I was ministering in Miranda de Ebro, in the north of Spain. They wanted to form a Reformed congregation, and they asked me the pastoral guidance. And after that, I visit them pastorally every 3 months, and also to do the Lord's Supper. After many difficulties and strugglings, even because it was a group without a minister. After these difficulties, the group started to be established, and in 2016 it was the first little local rented, and in 2018 the group started to grow a little more, and rented the local in which today we are doing the services. At the beginning, the group remained only 2 families, but during the years it became established. And in 2017, it was the election of the first ruling elder, Wilson Calle. And after the lockdown, and facing the impossibility for the group to receive another minister, finally I decided to move to Barcelona, leaving the work in the north of Spain, in Bilbao and Miranda de Ebro. And we moved to Barcelona in the summer to 2021. And also very soon time after, Joel's Suarez family went also with us, and then all the scattered groups were concentrated in Barcelona. And concerning the present day, since our arrival, the congregation has known a growing, Our two families our two families are 11 more members. Then it's a significant growing. Yes, at present day in Ruiz we are 36 members, 26 communicant members, and 10 children. We've got also 2 ruling elders after the election of the second ruling elder at the beginning of this year, Ernest González. And well, we've got also 3 more assessor elders brethren from Scotland. We have had this privilege to have assessor elders from the beginning of our relationship with the church in Scotland. And well, we continue to meet in that rented local, which is sufficient for us. And we do then there 3 services per week. The meeting in the Friday evening, the prayer meeting, and 2 services in the Lord's Day, at the beginning and in the afternoon. And well, we are also doing the theological conferences at the beginning of the year, in the month of February. We have done 2 theological conferences, and this year we hope to, with the help of the Lord, to do also the 3rd one. And we try to be close in time with the conferences held in Pau, in France. And well, that's concerning Ruiz, but at the beginning of this year, well, really at the end of last year, a little group of young people in Valencia asked us to become part of the congregation as a preaching station. It is composed by 12 communicant members. They are very young. They are 4 young couples just married, and they've got 3 newborn babies. They are expecting the 4th one, and in weeks to come they are going to receive a new marriage between them. One of the members is my daughter Anna, who is going to be added to this part of the congregation in Valencia. They rent a local they don't meet exactly in Valencia, but in a population close to the capital, and they rent there a little local. And well, they have also to move because all the families have gone to live in the north of Valencia, and then it is more practical to move to another town. And this group is attended service by Christian, a young man, 25 years old, but is a serious and a serious man in the Lord, and he has been accepted as a private student in the seminary here in Scotland. And concerning Braga, they asked during last year, 2022, to become also a congregation of a presbytery. And they are 25 members, 4 of them children, and therefore 21 communicant members. They are served by an aged man, and a very faithful man, Geraldo Almeida, but he is not pastor. He is a group, a congregation without pastor, but it is well attended by this brother. And it's a group that is continuously receiving visitors, continuously receiving new people, new attenders. The vast majority, almost all of them, are Brazilian, who are continuously arriving to the town in Braga and to the congregation in Braga. Therefore, in total, the three groups, we are in total 77 members, and as our brother Brother Hugues is going to tell you, plus the members in Po, 16 members. In total, the membership of the Presbytery of Navarre and Aragon is 93 members, 68 communicant members. And that's our situation, our present situation. And concerning the future, obviously it's all in the hands of God. And we have arrived here to this point because of the blessing of the Lord. Without that, nothing is possible. But well, we have to see that in Spain we are the only church which reformed in a sensus plenior, no? with a confessional view of the confession in the way that we understand it, of course, who hold the purity of worship, who holds the establishment principle, and also cardinal doctrines as the Pope is Antichrist. And well, we are in a sense alone in Spain, and I would say also in the Iberian Peninsula. But well, in another sense, to be alone is good because it is an opportunity to witness, and it is also to be alone by definition. One who is alone is the reference of something, in that case the doctrines of the Reformation. We have seen in the past that for this growing, and there are two key elements. The seminary, in the Spanish seminary, and on the other hand, the use of internet to put in the web all the contents of the preachings, studies, etc. And it has been a key for this growing. And well, we hope to grow. We need to grow, and I believe also that the Lord has prepared us to grow. We've got now 3 students, one of them in the Spanish seminary, and Joel and also Christian as students in the seminary, Christian as a private student, Joel as an official student. And then the Lord is preparing us for more growing. But as I have said, all is in the Lord's hand, and all depends on His blessing. And we covet your prayers, your continuous prayers for the church in Spain, in Braga, and for the Presbytery. Thank you.
Brethren, it's good to be with you. It's my first time at the school in Theology, and I am grateful for the invitation to speak. I'm sure that the school will be of much personal encouragement and edification. I was especially pleased to hear Mr. McInnes yesterday speaking about the St. Bartholomew's Massacre. This day remains the worst day in the history of the Reformed and Protestant Church in France. Mr. Buchanan told us about the day of small things, and it is good in the day of small things to remember the past sufferings of the Church. So, Mr. Ruiz told you about the Lord's work in Ruby, Valencia, and Braga, and I will briefly tell you about the Lord's work in Pau. I have organized my speech this morning in 4 parts. First of all, a general introduction to our work in Pau. Secondly, the difficulties and adversity in our work. Thirdly, the encouragements in our works. And finally, the perspectives for the future. And I think that it will be helpful for you to have these various points covered by my speech. So let us begin with a general introduction to the work in Pau. The work in Pau began in 2016 under the oversight of Mr. Ruiz, who was at that time a minister in the north part of Spain, in Bilbao and Miranda. Mr. Ruiz remained in charge of the congregation, in fact, until my own ordination in 2021. And during 5 years, he worked tirelessly for the spiritual good of the congregation, and we are really thankful for that. So Pau is a relatively big city. Since 200,000 people live in the area, so Pau and the neighboring towns. The localization of the city is quite ideal. The mountains of the Pyrenees are 1 hour driving, and the Atlantic coast is as well 1 hour driving. And so during the summer, especially, the area is very touristic. We have a lot of tourists. Pau is also a city with a very rich Reformed heritage. Indeed, the city was in the 16th and at the beginning of the 17th century the capital of a Reformed kingdom called the Kingdom of Béarn. This kingdom became reformed under the reign of the Queen Jeanne d'Albret. We have heard yesterday Mr. McInnes speaking about the King Henry IV. Jeanne d'Albret was Henry IV's mother. She was converted under the ministry of Theodore Beza, and it's interesting to know that Peter Viret, the great reformer, worked for the Reformation in Pau, and he died there. Recently we learned even that the Free Church had a congregation in Pau, and that the congregation joined the United Free Church in 1900. And we have been able even to identify the building in which the congregation was gathered, and it's now a house, but you can still see that it was a religious building, you know. So it was quite nice to see that. our congregation is composed of 9 communicant members, 8 baptized children, and some adherents. We have 2 worship services on Sunday and 1 prayer meeting on Wednesday. The Lord's Supper is usually administered 4 times a year, with communion season from Thursday to Monday, usually. So that's for my first part, a general introduction to the work in Po. And now the second part of my speech this morning about the difficulties and the adversity in our work. Of course, as we work for the advancement and progression of the kingdom of grace, it is normal that we face difficulties and adversity. Difficulties are many and diverse. Some are very common to other congregations, and obviously some are more peculiar to our own situation and circumstances. So even if we have a lot of difficulties and adversity, I will let you know 2 main difficulties we faced recently. The first one, of course, is connected with the spiritual state of the nation. In the past, it was common for Reformed people in France to say that the revocation of the Edict of Nantes, which brought the persecution on the church, was the result of the sin of the French Reformed Church, especially in not disciplining Moses Amiro for his false teaching. So today we will do well in discerning the times. France is clearly under God's judgment. And that is manifest in 2 things. First of all, the growth of Islam in our country. And that not only through immigration, but even through the conversion of very French people. Islam is now the 2nd religion in our country, after Catholicism. And if you follow the news, you know that in recent past, Islam was responsible of many murders and killings. So the growth of Islam, but the growth of progressivism as well. And here I mean especially the tyranny of LGBT, vegan, feminist lobbies, which are becoming more and more aggressive towards the church. Public school is now to be avoided at all costs, really. And it is becoming more and more complicated to have permission to homeschool your children. And this is a serious matter, because in the future, it could provoke an exodus of Reformed and evangelical believers. I could have mentioned as well the still very present power of the Antichrist on many souls in our country. Catholicism, I said it, remains the first religion in France. Anyway, in front of such changes and moves in the society, it is clear that we are suffering God's judgment. So that's the first main difficulty. The second problem we faced recently was concerning the official recognizance of the congregation by the state. This has been a huge problem for us. I will not bore you with specific features of French law, but you just need to know that it is impossible in France for a congregation to get an official reconnaissance by the state without becoming a congregationalist in government. The reason is that in France, a congregation can only exist as a religious association, and in so doing, it is forced to adopt a congregationalist government. Nevertheless, we have been able, and that's good, to officially regularize the congregation's finances before the state. So, even if I alluded only to difficulties, we are facing much more. But I would like to say that the encouragement are even more numerous than the difficulties. So let us now speak about the encouragements. I will share with you 5 great encouragements we received in our work for the Lord's cause in Po. And there are much more as well, but 5 big encouragements we received. First of all, the growth of the congregation. The congregation is growing little by little, progressively. When we began years ago, we were fewer in number. I remember to have been alone with my family for the afternoon worship service on the Lord's Day. But progressively, people have joined the work. Some have left, of course, but much have remained with us. We are still small, and very small in some sense, but encouraged by our growth. We see the Lord's hand in it. So our second encouragement has been the strengthening of the Kirk session. The Kirk session includes now 3 local men. Mr. Pontac, Mr. Garrett, who is with us today, and myself. And this has been a huge strengthening for the congregation. The elders have been of big help. They manifested themselves are very able to deal with people in the congregation and very helpful also in administrative matters. The brethren in the congregation really appreciate their ministry and their kindness. And of course, we are grateful for the help of the assessors. Mr. Craig, Mr. Ruiz are assessors for the congregation in Po, and we are thankful for that. So third, encouragement. The students for the ministry. It is wonderful to see in a so small congregation 2 men studying under the persuasion to have a call to the ministry, Mr. Pontac and Mr. Garrett again. Mr. Pontac is already a candidate for the ministry, and he studies part-time. He is a judge, and so he's forced to study part-time. Mr. Garrett has been studying for 1 year as a private student, and his recognition as a candidate for the ministry is in process. And from October 2023, he will be studying full-time. And we are convinced that the prosperity of the work in France depends in many respects of our students for the ministry. So, the fourth encouragement, the visits of the FCC people. We have enjoyed the visit of several brethren these last times. Some from Scotland, Mr. Norris, for example. He is regularly with us together with his nice family. Mr. McInnes visited us with his dear family as well in April 2023. Madame Roberta Craig was with us in October 2022, Mark and Ray MacDonald in June 2022. Derek and Anna McLean are expected for next month. Mr. William MacLeod is expected for February 2024. From Spain, we received the visit of Mr. Ruiz, of course. From Portugal, we received the visit of Heraldo and Sibeli. Heraldo is the man, as to say, in charge of the congregation in Braga. And from the USA, we received Mr. Sherman Isbell in February. And all these visits have been a blessing for the congregation, really. They are manifestation of the unity of our church. So please don't hesitate to visit us. And remember that you will have the sea near, the mountains as well. And if you are a preacher, you can even preach for me. So please come to visit us. And finally, the theological conferences. Mr. Ruiz told us a bit about the theological conferences. Since 2022, we have organized 2 theological conferences, one per year. These theological conferences are intended to be repeated every year. Our purpose is to edify the brethren, of course, and to give to them and to others a better knowledge of our faith and of our church. We are especially grateful to Mr. Kirkland, who took part in the first conference, giving a lecture on the disruption. On last February, Mr. Isbell came to give lectures on the free offer of the gospel. And finally, Mr. Ruiz has been involved in every theological conference dealing with very important issues. And Mr. Ruiz is expected to be involved in the next theological conference, together with Mr. MacLeod in February 2024. So that's for the encouragement, brethren. And there are really precious encouragements for us. So now let us see the perspectives, the prospects for the future, and we will conclude with that. Obviously, as a congregation, as a church, our purpose is to grow. We would like to have more and more congregations until we can have a national church in France, a national denomination. But in so doing, we are strongly determined to preserve the free church constitution and principles, as we have promised in our ordination vows. So our purpose is to grow in remaining faithful. And so we have basically 3 options in our trying to grow. And of course, we don't forget that God is absolutely sovereign in that, and He can, of course, work in some unexpected ways. So the first option will be to try to target, as to say, the big cities of the southwest. In the southwest of France, we have 2 big cities. We have Bordeaux and we have Toulouse. Bordeaux is around 300,000 inhabitants. Toulouse is bigger, around 500,000 inhabitants. And as there are more people there, planting churches could be theoretically easier. As far as we know, there is no Reformed confessional church in these cities. Another option, the second option, will be to try to target the historical Protestant cities of Béarn. Some towns in Béarn remained sociologically strongly Protestant. Usually the temples is the name we give to the Protestant churches in France. Usually the temples, the church buildings, are quite big and empty. Most of them have only one worship service per month. And maybe the people, especially the old people in these towns and cities, would be happy to have worship services near them. Nevertheless, these towns are relatively small, between 2,000 and 10,000 inhabitants. And the last option will be to hope after the growing of our congregation in Pau, and if we reach 50 or 60 people, we could divide the congregation in order to have 2 congregations, or we could send some members, some families to plant a church in other part. And in this way, we could be able, to multiply. Of course, these options are not mutually exclusive, but we should probably give priority to one of them, at least in our current situation. Of course, there is also the possibility for other congregations to join us if they want, in which case we will welcome them warmly. So, to conclude now, brethren, I hope this overview has been useful for you. Now you know better how to pray for us. We are encouraged by the Lord's work among us. That's the main thing, you know. Yes, we have difficulties. Yes, we are small, but we are encouraged. And in front of difficulties and adversity, we endeavor to walk by faith. And we believe that the day is coming when all nations will serve the Lord. Thank you, President.